the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we jumped Caleb a little bit. Caleb, did we get you early on that one? Yeah, a little bit. I'd like to welcome everyone here. Alicia's not here. Are there any board and committee reports? Seeing none. Any citizens' concerns? Stephen.
Steve, just had a question. I know that later on, your agenda says you'll be talking about the override results. And to that end, I'd just like to remind you, I did send you an email, in part asking the selectmen as citizens, when we stand up at town meeting, to show some support and respect for the votes of the citizenry in last week's election. I'd like to point out that not only did 4 of them fail, no one came close to a 2/3 majority. And approximately 1,800 people showed up at that meeting, and I don't know that town meeting will be any more representative than the 1,800 people that voted. So I'm hoping that you as individuals will choose to support the results as evidenced by how the people voted. I recognize you can make your own decisions, but as individual voters at the town meeting, I hope you respect the will. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be here.
Thanks, Steve. Any public hearings? None. Town administrators report. We'll proceed to new business, and that new business is kind of a broad overview of discussion of the override results. Tracy, do you have anything to?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I was wondering if we could take items out of order and discuss the air quality first.
We could do that.
So we could get them on here.
Okay, we're going to reconstruct a little bit, and we're going to have on the new business a review of the report on the air quality testing by the environmental diagnostic professionals. So we have those in our packet. Tracy, do you want to take the lead on that?
Actually, I defer to Sam Johnson, building.
Sam, would you like to take the lead on that?
Sam Jocelyn, Newbury Building Commissioner. About 2 weeks ago, I was trying to use my cell phone, and in the trailers we don't get reception. So I stepped outside to use it, happened to be walking around the trailers to be looking for a location for a signal booster. Noticed sagging insulation under the trailers, went over, found that it was saturated with water, cut it open, and gallons of water started pouring out. Greatly concerned me because you're not supposed to have gallons of water in your insulation and your floors and walls. So I called the air quality specialist to come in, test, and at the same time they were scheduled to come and retest the PD downstairs after our repairs from last year. In testing that, we found that the trailers had a serious problem. A number of different molds, resulting from everything from bad odors to severe health consequences. The recommendation of those professionals was to remove the workers from that situation, get them out of the trailers. And if we were to repair the trailers, the repair is eliminate the insulation from underneath, put in a new subfloor, new carpeting, and scrub and sanitize the walls. To do that doesn't warrant the cost in those trailers. They're temporary trailers that have been there for 15 years. They're well beyond their life expectancy anyway, and now with this, the cost to rehab them, it isn't practical. So on the 12th, the day of the election, I did post the trailers, and I want to make it clear that the election had no bearing on this. The results of the report are the results of the report. So whether the override would have passed or failed, or didn't matter. We still would have been in the same position with passing overrides, that those folks would be out of there, because just because we pass an override doesn't mean the building springs up overnight. Be great if it did. Didn't happen that way. So in the meantime, now we need to have this discussion as to what do we do with our Board of Health, our fire chief, and our police officers that are in those 2 trailers, and get them into another facility as soon as possible. They are out as of the date of hanging that sign, which was last Tuesday. Luckily, the Board of Health has been working out of Georgetown. Police have been making do with what they have, which isn't much. And the fire chief has been, I think, working out of his home. As far as the results downstairs, they weren't as encouraging as I would have hoped. They came back with less of a moisture issue. There's less fecal matter, which is good. Less flies that are a result of that fecal matter causing rashes and issues with our officers. Being slightly drier has led to more of a mold spore count. So we do have an air purifier, air scrubbers down there. We are developing a mold issue again. It's not something we're gonna Band-Aid. That needs to be dug up, waterproofed, completely gutted, redone if the space is gonna be used, whether it's police, town offices, document storage, doesn't matter. There's gotta be a permanent fix, or we're just gonna keep doing this exercise over and over. In the meantime, we can again put out the fire, get the guys back in there into a healthier situation. We'll test the air quality again in another 6 months after we make the repairs. But in the meantime, the big item is what do we do with the 2 trailers out there, or that space loss, and how do we accommodate the town employees that are in there?
When we say trailer, that was a double, right?
Yes, the 2
That's why we say
police
trailers
trailers.
for people that are listening. It is actually in essence 2 trailers. Huh?
6 people.
6 people. And downstairs is in constant noise now with air scrubbers to achieve air quality standards?
Somewhat. We've eliminated, I think, we've unplugged the air scrubber.
The one that was affecting dispatch, absolutely.
Yeah, so it was too noisy to run. We did get an air purifier, which runs quieter. The other concern we have down there is our electric panel here is deficient. We barely have enough to run what we have, and plugging in additional air purifiers, scrubbers, dehumidifiers, I don't think we can handle much more on that end. So it's something we have to be a little bit wary of when we start just plugging in all this equipment, that we're not equipped to handle it. We dodged the bullet a few years back with having to upgrade, because we were at a point where if we had someone making toast, we'd blow half the offices out. We couldn't do that. We had heaters in here that would do the same thing. We dodged the bullet. We did an energy retrofit with new lighting, with some insulation. That brought our energy usage down, so we stopped having that issue. Still wasn't adequate, but it was marginal. And now again, we're starting to ramp that up. We've added a trailer, we're adding scrubbers, we're adding purifiers. We're maxing out again. So we've got to be pretty careful what we do.
So, let me just ask this from probably Sam and then Tracy, and then I'd like really some comment from the board. Just so we know for our discussion tonight, because in reading the agenda, it says, for discussion. Are we looking tonight, Tracy, to try to solve any of the existing problems with the trailers? Because we don't really have all the information in front of us yet, do we?
The trailers are posted now.
Right.
They can no longer work out of those.
But I mean, are we trying to solve
It's-
office space, fire station, trailer? down-
This is relatively immediate. We've got to come some
So-
kind of a
So
decision about where we're
discussion
gonna put
means
these people.
basically solutions tonight.
Yeah, Georgetown Town Administrator Mike Farrell has been very accommodating. He's going to allow the health agent and her assistant to work out of their facilities. So that'll be resolved, but we still
So
have.
anyone needing Board of Health is,
We'll have to go to Georgetown. The fire chief, we're hoping, can work out of the station over here, or bounce back and forth between the two facilities. Sam did run some numbers about some alternatives. We had thought about getting another trailer and moving that over to this side of the building, or.
smaller trailer.
Or possibly moving the PD into the inspectional services trailer and then putting the inspectional services in here, somehow petitioning this room off and doing, then that would create some other problems as far as meeting facilities.
Yeah, with the trailer that the PD would be looking at, they're looking to accommodate 3 offices at a minimum, and that, they're giving up, 3,500 square feet. If we went, our trailer is 12 by 60, which doesn't quite get you there, but that would give them, enough to, again, Band-Aid the situation, but we would have to park it somewhere. We'd either have to put it down where the PD cruisers are parked or in where we have parking. Or on the Upper Green, I guess, would be the other location that we have local, which is, either way is troublesome. We have parking issues as is. The other issue, that we have with these trailers, and some were talking about moving inspectional services in there and moving a PD trailer in there, but logistically it's difficult because those trailers, the tongue is on the end with the inspectional services, so we would have to completely decommission that, unhook the power, which means the town would be down. All our servers are in there. We moved them because we didn't have a server room. So the server room is in the trailer with us, so we'd have to
Want to say
complete
that one more time? So all the servers for
all the
town
servers for
hall-
the town, except for the PD ones. So we would have to shut town hall down while we disconnected and moved that trailer. It would be a complete closure until that trailer can be disconnected, moved, new trailers in, and that reconnected. And that's not a one afternoon shutdown. So logistically, that becomes very difficult in pulling those. What we thought as far as removal of those is having someone come in, grab them, crush them, and haul them away. And then we still wouldn't have a way to get a new trailer there because the embankment on this side is much too steep to back anything up, and you can't get around the inspectional services. So again, we'd be at a point where we're adding a trailer to our parking lot, which, it isn't ideal either way, but that's really the decision that we're looking to you to make tonight.
How heavy are the trailers?
They're light enough they could be craned if that's where you're going.
Or
It's
lulled or something?
yeah, it's it's a little difficult. We do have wires out here, so I don't know where we would crane it in from. That side probably isn't an option because we can't go up and over or under the wires.
Yep.
And then this side, trying to crane over this building, maybe it's the best thing if one of them drops on it. But little, again, it's not impossible, just logistically maybe a little bit difficult.
Just trying to figure out.
I appreciate any,
A question
Any
we
help?
will get is, could it be done on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday when basically a lot of town hall is in hiatus?
probably, just be at a cost. Like
Yeah.
anything else, if you want guys to work overtime, they're gonna charge you for it.
Yeah, but meaning that would be, we would be able to disconnect that trailer, move it very quickly and crush and put something else in that trailer's position.
Potential, even still, a weekend would be a logistical tight spot to be in, to pull disconnect, because, we have to have, the electric disconnected, so IT's gotta be involved, the electrician's gotta be involved, the trailer moving company has to be involved, the skirting around it all needs to be removed, so we'll need a contractor for that. The company that's gonna come in, either crush or haul away those, the company that's gonna bring in the new trailer, and then the reconnect. So, could it be done? Yeah, I mean, but will it be done? I don't know. If
Everything goes
everything goes
smoothly?
right, you know, being a contractor, yeah, if everything goes right, you can get it done real fast. If one of the subs says, well, hey, you know, we're sick or we got tied up, that bumps everyone else out. And then, you know, will we back up and running Monday? Or is he bumped out a week and we're up and running the following Monday?
And the big issue is, can you line those people up? Everybody I know is busy right now.
Well, that's the other problem, is now that the snow's melted, the economy's better, getting contractors to show up tomorrow doesn't happen.
Have you looked into what it would cost to get those out of there yet?
Rough estimates, and it depends on really how much steel we have in there, because that's gonna offset the cost. The steel and aluminum, if they can easily separate it from the materials inside, that may offset some of it.
Metal prices are terrible right now.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and that's why I said, you know, it's not as good as it could be.
So the dismantling of the trailers hypothetically would be done on site, so that that trailer didn't have to move anyway,
Right.
and probably over the banking or out around or something.
Right, and we could, you know, have them work around and get smaller equipment to just,
Yep.
you know, crush and get it out of there, put it in a dumpster, haul it away. But again, we still have, even to dismantle these, we've got gas out there, we've got electric, we've got IT, phone lines, all that's gotta be disconnected, put somewhere, and dealt with in, you know, some
And to
regard.
back up, for those people on television, if I read the recommendations right, and I don't know if you can remember it, Sam, but it was walls and floors and windows, I mean, it was,
Recommendations were replacement of the insulation underneath, remove and replace the subfloor in the entire trailer, and remove and replace all the carpeting in the trailer. And then scrub your walls and ceilings with a ServPro type of company that comes in and disinfects and cleans the whole thing, and then clean out your ventilation and, heating and cooling system. At that point, we're beyond the cost, or pretty close to the cost of possibly purchasing a trailer, never mind, cleaning it. And why we would put the money into cleaning, again, and I think we bought those used, didn't we?
Actually, we bought them new. I think one of them we bought used, and one of them was new.
Okay.
What is a new one? How much?
What's a new one?
Yeah.
Ours, although it was new to us, but it was used, was about 15,000. But that was prior to hooking anything up. By the time we were done, we were looking at about 35 to 40,000 to have it up and
Truly?
running. Yep. But again, then we get to an up and running, non-compliant, not handicap accessible, no bathrooms, inefficient to heat and cool tin can. They cost roughly, even with the modifications, they used to cost us about $3,000 to $5,000 each winter month to heat each one of those containers out there, or trailers. With an upgrade in windows and doors, we brought it down to about $2,000 to $3,000 per month. It's, you've got an inch and a half of insulation in the walls. They're not meant to be lived in. And that's essentially what we ended up doing, where, we're spending 40 to 60 hours a week in a structure that's meant to be, on a construction site so that you can run in, look at your documents, and head back out. So it's not ideal. Again, even if we get a temporary, or a new trailer for PD, it's a temporary fix. The building code allows for temporary structures 1 year with a potential extension, which is usually another year. And that's with good reason, that if you have a plan on the horizon that's gonna take a little extra. If you got nothing, we're supposed to stick to that year, and obviously 15 years is well beyond, and, we keep stretching in that way, and we just can't. We've got the state coming in tomorrow. I think Department of Public Health is coming in to do a quick look at, to see if they have any suggestions with them, but I don't have high hopes as to what they could say when you have saturated floors and insulation, other than replace them. Some of the molds, or what we have in there, are classified as a slime mold that actually work their way up into the walls and structures. So we may find when we pull paneling away that has crept up into the walls as well. So we might be able to fix them, but again, it's just not cost effective. It really isn't.
And so, space-wise, we're looking at trying to find how much space, square footage?
What do you got in there? You got, what are they, 10 by 50s or 10 by 12 by 60s? Probably 1,500, ideally would be 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. Talking with PD, I think with one 12 by 60 trailer, short term, they can get by, you know, because we'll be trying to shuffle. We got the Board of Health, they wouldn't be in there, fire chief wouldn't be in there, so we'll pull a few people. We'll pull half the people, so half the space works, essentially, is what it comes down to.
I'm just trying to envision other locations. Are there specific requirements, Chief Riley, that you guys need in that space? So, you know, if we found a few offices we could rent somewhere else in town, would that be functional, or does it have to be here on site?
It's very dysfunctional. It makes it almost impossible to work. We are in and out of the police station all day. This is where people come to when they want to see the chief. They come to the Newbury Police Station. This is where we work with the guys. And, you know, to have a cohesive, functioning police department, you can't be separated, you know, one side of town, the other. The administrative offices over here. And as far as morale goes, downstairs, the air quality condition isn't much better than the trailers. I mean, it is better, but it's not much better. And as far as morale goes, to have my people still downstairs in that condition while we have brand new office space someplace else, that's just a killer. I won't do that to my people. It's just my opinion. But thank you.
Mr. Chairman, when we were brainstorming locations, we also gave consideration to the Memorial Hall out back, but unfortunately, they've got commitments for functions and events through the summer, so that didn't really work for us. And we also were considering, you know, areas within the library or the Byfield Grange building, which we also have leased out at this point in time. So it came down to really these two. And what was the price quote, Sam?
For
the two alternatives in here, or the additional?
additional trailer, I got- and you know, and these are rough estimates. There hasn't been calls made. These are just based on, you know, what we see day in, day out in the building department. But we're looking at 35 to 40,000 to get a trailer for the PD, leave it here, leave the Board of Health in Groveland, or Georgetown rather, and did we get approval for the chief to go down to Pro 2?
Not yet.
Not yet. So that's with the assumption that the chief would be able to have an office space down at Pro 2. Option 2, which is PD moves into the inspectional services trailer, and inspectional services, Board of Health, and possibly the chief move into here, which leaves you guys and every other board looking for meeting space, which would either have to be library, PITA, the Grange, fire department. I mean, there's spaces out there, it's not town hall. Those end up being 25 to 35,000.
But does that include hookup, the electricity hookup and all that?
Yeah, so those both include, well, the first estimate includes roughly a 5,000 per year rental for the trailer, 10,000 bucks for setup, you know, petition walls, getting things in there. IT costs between 5 and 10, your phones, your computers, 5,000 for moving, just desks, things like that, and trailer demo of 10,000. I tried to estimate a little bit on the high side. I'd rather come in under than, you know, surprise you with, you know, worse news than we already have. Moving the inspectional service in here and police into that trailer. Roughly a 5,000 renovation to town hall to put up petitions, get our you know, bits and pieces all in here. Again, a 5,000 in moving. IT costs of 5 to 10,000, and trailer demo stays the same at 10. Again, do we think I can get the trailer demo down? Probably. But again, it depends on metal pricing and how easily those come apart for the contractor that wants to take them, and if they want to take them. And at the same time, if we want to save short-term, they're really not doing any harm sitting there if we don't use the spot. It's not ideal to leave them, considering they're, growing things. But short-term, we could put that off, leave them posted, they're closed to entry. So that potentially could knock 10,000 off either option.
If you move all the equipment, the desks and stuff that's inside those, are those gonna have to be cleaned because of the mold?
Most of them, yes. We'll either have to, if it's a cloth-based, typically the recommendation is you get rid of it. So couches, fabric chairs, things like that. Anything that's hard plastic or wood, you wipe down with a sanitizer.
Is that something that we'd have to bring, Serpro or something would come in and do
Yeah.
that, right? Okay.
If we moved into Town Hall, would Board of Health be able to locate in Town Hall? Is there enough space?
Enough, no. Could we do it? Sure. We'd have to take the table and try and find a location. We need to keep the aisle access ways around.
There won't be enough
Open
room, there won't be enough room, we're going to need the table anyways.
Yeah, you need to leave your aisle access ways for accessibility around for, just general access to offices, but also handicap accessibility. And then we'd have to petition up the center for conservation, inspectional services, potentially fire chief if he needs to come, and Board of Health, which to make this into offices for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, we've been in tighter. Do we want to go back to that? Not particularly, but if we have to,
Well, I think the big denominator in that is you have no ability to conduct boards and committee business. 'Cause there's
correct. They'd have to find another
not on
location.
location, yeah.
Yep.
And I agree with Mike that for him to go off to another location that was better and cleaner, and he couldn't conduct work away from this site anyway, so definitely, it seems like those are the two things that are before us, unless anyone on the board has another thought. Or grand illumination, what it would be called.
I don't see the Grange Hall or the library being feasible. Would we even legally be allowed to use the library since grants were involved? I mean, it seems like the library's the library.
We'd certainly have to have conversations with the Board of Library Trustees and understand if there were any implications. I'm sure if it was a temporary basis, we could probably get some kind of an allowance, but temporary equaling 15 years. No.
Right.
No.
Looks like trail as it is.
The price difference again between the squeeze ineffectually in here and the trailers is
10 to 15,000, somewhere in that range.
There would be some incidental cost to accommodate the Board of Health working remotely as well. Just for,
Yeah.
Their file movement, access to our server, those types of things.
No. Tracy just brought up something else that, while we're on the string of bad news, I guess, we'll keep it coming. Our conservation agent went to get files out of our storage containers today, and they are unconditioned, just metal boxes with file cabinets for the most part in them.
And where's the location again, Sam?
Down at the landfill.
Down at the dump behind that fence in that trailer.
Yep. So we have 2 containers down there that contain all of our documents. Some of them are contained in plastic totes, some are in file cabinets. The one in plastic totes are doing okay. The ones in the file cabinets have developed mold as well. You open them up and they're covered with mold.
So you can't make this stuff up, right?
I wish I was, and if it was April 1st and I was making it up, I'd be a happy guy.
So we're likely gonna have to invest in some conditioned trailers if you wanna preserve those records.
For a town, we don't allow trailers as life space, as houses in our town, do we? For a town that doesn't like trailers, we certainly like trailers.
Yeah, we don't allow them as trailers, and I don't think anyone in this town would walk into any of those spaces and go, this is great, I'd love to work here. And if they do, I'd like to see where they're working.
So, do we need clarification again for this board as to what it seems as the two solutions that have risen to the surface? Does anyone need any more? Stephen, do you have a suggest? Go ahead, microphone.
Steve Fram, Chairman of the Board of Health. I wonder if we might be looking at it a little bit backwards. I mean, I see where the police department needs to be centrally located. Town Hall doesn't necessarily need to be centrally located. Maybe we need to move the police up here and find a place for Town Hall temporarily, rent a space. Probably a lot less IT, I don't know. But we don't want to get into the position the town of Dartmouth got into. They had similar problems in their police station. They've spent just under $1 million on temporary trailers. And I don't even know how long they are, but Department of Public Health for the state gave them a drop-dead date, so they're not going to be there very long. And I just don't want to see us getting into a position where we're spending a lot of good money after bad.
I think we're already there.
Just to speak to that, for the most part, our costs, the cost wouldn't be significantly different as far as moving to rental space. As far as option one with the trailer, it would essentially eliminate your rental of the trailer itself, but you'd still have your setup of the non-trailer space. Moving costs, IT costs remain the same. And then you have, to replace that trailer rental, you have space rental. Same thing with the other option without the trailer. We'd save the $5,000 of renovation of this room, but all the other costs remain the same. We still need to move, we still need to have IT come in. The only reason I didn't put it as an option is, one, where, and two, how we paying for it. Other than that, do I think that would be ideal as far as a more permanent solution? Yeah, but, my fear with that is it's a more permanent solution that we end up with people everywhere in town, which, if that's what the town wants, that's okay with me. Wherever I report to work is fine. But that's going to be your cost difference, is what your rental costs are versus leasing a trailer.
So we would be leasing the trailer. If we put a trailer in front of the downstairs police station, which housed the essential personnel of which Michael spoke, that would be a lease on that trailer, probably for a yearly lease. And,
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make sense to purchase it
That's
when-
good clarification.
when we're only going to be a short term. If we were going to keep it long term, sure.
No.
But at this point where we're trying to limit ourselves to 1 to 2 years max, I don't see any purpose in purchasing something.
Now, does it make sense to lease the trailer for the police and partition off a section of this room for Board of Health? Make 2 office spaces up here and have 3 office spaces down there?
Possibly, and again, so at that point, you'd be adding about 5,000 to reconfigure up here. So instead of that 35 to 40, we'd be at, 40 to 45, but we'd have our Board of Health and Fire Chief central. We'd just lose a meeting room.
So I
So
think
if you
what
want
Damon
to
was
keep the
asking,
family
though,
together.
I think what Damon was, I don't want to speak for you, but I think he was kind of intimating, can we get some officers in and retain some sort of meeting room? I think your occupancy would be your occupancy would be a lot less.
Significantly.
Yeah.
At
2
least.
rows, not,
Yeah, handicap, I'm sure. That was a surprise.
There would be 2 fairly small offices, but could it be done? Probably, and you'd probably be limited to about 8 to 10 seats up here, plus whatever's at the table. So could it be done? Yeah, does it get us what we want or need. And, you know, the problem with that is you have something even like a conservation meeting where, you know, maybe they get, instead of 10 people, they get 15 show up. Now, do they have to relocate? You know, once the meeting's in progress, close the meeting and re-adjourn somewhere else or reschedule. And that's my fear of doing something like that where we've got such a small space. And I know there's not a lot of good attendance at a lot of these meetings. It's usually the board and one or two people. But when we do have that good attendance, especially if it's a surprise, that means you close the meeting, move out, and find a new spot, whether it's that night or some other date.
Just to recapitulate, with a leased trailer downstairs for 1 year and to outfit it with the needed stuff to move the police equipment that Mike and the lieutenant need, is still gonna reach that $40,000 mark?
Possibly. And again, I tried to worst
Making a
case it.
high number.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we can do it for less, absolutely. A lot of the trailer companies, if you give them a floor plan, when they rehab, especially a used trailer, will come in and lay out those walls. That's what we did with ours. They said, you know, they limit you to, like, we were limited to 2 walls that were included in the price. So we located them, they put them in for us. You know, beyond that, it's extra cost. We still have to cover the costs of IT, of new furniture or moving the furniture, of setting up phone lines, you know, all the other, which is significant. You know, that's the tough part. I mean, putting walls up in them isn't really expensive. They're you know, 2x3 partitions with, you know, 1/4-inch plywood or whatever on each side, paneling. You know, and that's the other issue that the police are having right now. Because they have a little bit of space, our detective has an interrogation room. Is that what it is? Interrogation or interview room? Or,
It was meant to be.
you know, that limits privacy. So again, just makes that function a little more difficult to do where you're trying to have a private conversation and you're separated by 2 layers of paneling. You know, again, they have it in there, it's the same setup, but they've got a little bit more space to spread out, so it's not quite as not private.
Now, you asked about funding earlier. It seems like this might be something that comes out of FinCom's emergency funds, because this seems kind of like an emergency to me.
Kind of.
It would have to be a reserve fund transfer request.
So,
What's the balance in the reserve
I
fund?
don't even know.
So it's still
I
coming,
think-
it's still
I think
coming
there's
out of,
enough in there.
still coming out of funds.
It has to. Where else is it gonna come from, right? Can it come from anyplace else?
I mean, just to make sure that no one thinks there's a magic emergency fund anywhere, so. Well, we have some.
I think Steve wants to say.
Go ahead, Steve.
Again, I'm Steve Mangin. It's really a question perhaps for Sam. Have you looked at, these offices in the building aren't particularly big, but I know at one time or another, there's been more than one person in an office. So have you looked at, in trying to scrunch people together, looked at reconfiguring some of the existing offices and, you know, putting 2 people in there, 2 people in there, and at least mitigating the amount of trailer space that you need? And you've been in some of these yourself, I know, so.
Yeah, I mean, initially when I started, we were in this room. It's 10 by 16. We had 3 desks, 3 people, 2 chairs, and a door going into another room. Again, we can do anything we're asked to do. It just relates to the function of town hall. You know, can we get work done when there's, you know, I mean, myself, Doug, and Sue in one room with a visitor. You get 6 people in a room the size of this table, all talking, you know, louder and louder to try and answer questions, and it doesn't function. So could we? Yes. Should we? Probably not. But again, if that's the solution, then okay. I don't think it's a particularly good solution. you know, as far as productivity goes. Just moving out from this office to a slightly larger one to now a slightly larger trailer, even in there, we've got a lot more room, but it's very loud. It's, you know, it is what it is. I mean, everyone's cramped on space. There's, I wish I had a good solution, but,
Can I-
Mr. Chairman, in response to Selectman Greco's question, there's $26,030 left in the reserve fund right now.
So we don't have enough to cover it.
So how you liking this decision, guys?
So I have a question, Sam.
Sure.
Is there any standard that the Commonwealth allows for working space, like square footage?
there is. I don't think we want to go there. We are most likely in violation of a number of workplace standards, otherwise, beyond our trailers and PD. So, yes is the short answer.
I think somewhat what Sam is saying too, certainly we're in very bad shape here, but a lot of times, Sam, and we've talked about this before, without going into specifics, I mean, the police have had to do things where backup should have been there and it couldn't get there because of what they were facing for staffing. I know our fire has had maybe one less guy on a pump that, and I'm not positive, I can't say that for sure, because I don't know what would be the, like, union standard, but, you know, our town is, you know, because of budget constraints, we're asking our folks to do an awful lot, period. So, it seems when you reach this level, that's on top of other working conditions that they're involved in that, you know, could kill them. So,
Do we have an omissions and errors liability insurance policy? Does the town carry it?
so once again, Sam, can you clarify the two choices as I think there, it has been whittled down to for our board, the Board of Selectmen, so that we can maybe discuss those and make a motion?
And just to clarify, where these two decisions came from, myself, police department, fire, town administrator, I'm trying to think who else was there, IT, Susan from IT was there, to try and figure out what our options are. And we had a whole bunch of other outside-the-box options that, you know, some of them just aren't panning out, like the fire department, that would have been a nice space to have. Some as far as the Grange Hall or library, again, just don't work well. Again, could they work? Maybe. So we came down to these two, which one is getting a new leased trailer for PD, park it somewhere on this lot, which again is gonna impact our parking. Move them into there, leave Board of Health in Georgetown, and hope the fire chief gets a place down at the fire station to use. Option two would be PD moving into the inspectional services trailer out there, the one that's not condemned. Inspectional services and Board of Health move to this room, and again, hoping that the fire chief can move down to Pro 2. Again, neither's particularly palatable, but
Have we talked to Protection 2 about the potential of using their parking spaces or parking a trailer down there, since we're already tight on our parking here? And I think one of the things we looked at it with the municipal building committee that was tight was parking spaces. If we lose more, we're further in violation, as I understand it.
yep, we are,
Um,
I don't know if, did you have the discussion with them regarding that, or just the hall?
No,
Just the
regarding
hall.
parking.
Okay. So that is an option, if they're willing to, you know, let us use or rent us a space, then I don't see why that would be, I think that's reasonably close enough to be functional?
As far as the police department, a lot of the problem we're gonna have is the IT that goes back and forth between there.
I think it would be additional.
Yeah, there'll be, to put a trailer back there, to park vehicles there, absolutely, we could make anything work. If you, my opinion is, we get a trailer, we put it in close vicinity of this building, whether we can put it where the existing trailers are or down in front. That way, the police department stays as a cohesive unit. My goal for a trailer like that would be to get as many of my people from the conditions downstairs into the trailer, and then I put my office downstairs. We want to maintain a cohesive unit, and I think for one of my officers to come and see the chief or deputy chief, well, now that, just with these trailers, they're walking outside and up into these trailers to walk around to a fire department parking lot, and it's just dysfunctional. But as far as parking vehicles, if the fire department allows it, our employees would all park over there and things like that. Maybe town hall employees could park over there to alleviate some of the parking issues. But, you know, as far as functionality and to actually operate a police department, there's so much interaction on a daily basis. I'm up and down those stairs 50 times on a daily basis to expect my people to come back and forth. It's really difficult. So.
Your preference is really to locate that smaller trailer right in front of the station downstairs, right?
Wherever the town feels it would fit the best. But yeah, right in the vicinity of the existing station now.
And the police would find places to park if protected, you know?
Yes. Yes.
How quickly could that happen, that trailer?
That's up to.
Depends
I
on
mean,
the right
Week,
of way.
2 weeks, month?
Yeah, most of them are ready to go. If we want a different configuration inside, it may take a little longer, but most are ready to go on site. So within a week, you can have them delivered.
Okay, if you started today to rip those down, get the people going, 30 days, 45 days, hard telling, not knowing?
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. You know, it's,
Okay.
it's,
And as long as.
anyone who's available to get in there. Yeah, by time we, again, just do all the disconnects, reconnects, and
Then that's a space for one more trailer, once those are gone.
Yep.
What has to happen to the ground to get it prepped for the trailer? Is it just move it in, jack it up, or?
yeah, most are just put on cribbing, so it's not, you know, it doesn't need a foundation, anything like that. Those ones out there, they're on blocks.
So it's feasible to get it done before cold weather sets in again?
To have those removed, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're gonna lose 2 trailers
Yeah.
and gain 1.
you got it.
In a very bad parking place, most likely. Although what Chuck's driving at, and I don't know if you finished that thinking, is to try to get the trailer, the single trailer we're talking about back up here somehow. But you don't wanna.
At some point in
but you
time,
don't
you're
wanna
gonna
be-
have to get another trailer out back.
But you don't wanna
That's-
be reconnecting and
What?
connecting and.
Yeah,
What do we need?
I'm gonna have to bring them back.
yeah.
Well, I'd make a motion to get the police department a trailer as quickly as we can.
Option one.
Option 1, get police department a trailer.
Do I have a second?
Before I second it, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think either option will function short-term, and, you know, will get us over the hump, at least for now. We're gonna have to, at some point, we being you, we'll have to look at a longer-term solution, which I think, you know, we're already exploring with the MVC, with, you know, just discussions that we're having. But, again, we need to keep in mind, these are a 1 to 2 year max type of solution. And even at that, they're really not intended for this purpose.
Okay.
They just aren't.
How long has the inspectional services trailer?
That has already been there 8 months.
Okay.
Time flies.
Can you
So
just
we've got
tell me,
18 months, and
Per-
that's gotta go to.
can you tell me version 2 again? But the
Yep.
PD,
PD would take over the
Oof,
inspectional
yep.
services trailer.
the Board of Health stays in Georgetown?
Yep, and then we convert this room into offices. Which leaves us with a deficiency for meeting space, which we already have.
It's roughly the same money, right?
Yeah,
Give or take 10,000?
yeah.
This one, I'm sorry, I'm gonna second the motion before so we can further discuss it, okay?
Sounds good.
All right.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay. This trailer that you're in out here right now, is that on wheels?
Yes. They're all three of them are on wheels.
So theoretically, once these are gone, you could move that up into here and then get another one to replace you.
We could, but again, it comes with the
Does the
cost.
clock start again in a year after that?
Doesn't work.
Okay, I was trying.
You know, and then the other problem with that is, again, disconnecting and reconnecting IT, phone services, electric, you know, it just.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, we gave it a lot of thought as to, could we get, if, you know, if we end up with 2 trailers and 2 that are leaving, can we get those 2 in that spot? And if we had time, yes. With no time, not really. It just makes it really difficult to try and accomplish that.
Sam, disconnecting electricity is basically disconnecting electricity. Does the added expense come from having to do something extra extraordinary to back up all the IT stuff when the disconnect occurs? Where's the big expense to disconnect that trailer? I'm not questioning, I'm not understanding it.
Trailer?
No. Let's say if we disconnected your trailer and moved it.
It's all hardwired through the PD up into the
No,
town
but you're
hall.
just gonna take the wire off the side of the trailer and move the trailer.
Yeah, just simple, just cut that wire and reconnect.
Well,
it
it's
back.
not, it's not gonna be a $10,000 job.
With, you've got all client stations too that you've got to reconnect in. Data units, phone units.
It cost
No,
us
what I-
about
what
8
I was
to
going
connect
back
it.
to saying, like, if we, like Chuck was driving it, trying to get a trailer back in here, to disconnect your trailer and move it forward isn't gonna be a $10,000 job.
It was 8,000.
It was 8 to connect it.
It's what
But
it
you had to,
costs.
just to connect it, or to run all the wiring inside?
We did have wiring to run as well, and that 8 doesn't include the electric, which we wouldn't have to do.
Because I'm
So
gonna,
it would
I'm gonna
be,
get asked the question, why is it so much money to disconnect a trailer and move it?
right. The IT one for IT costs, as far as disconnecting that, reconnecting, you're looking at 5 to 10, which
Okay.
is what's on my figures. That's why we have the range. I didn't want to, do I think we can keep it towards the 5 grand? Sure, maybe. But again, I don't want to under budget this and come back later and say I need another 10,000 to make this happen.
But refitting a trailer is gonna be expensive, to refit the trailer, I understand that. To
Yeah.
refit a new trailer for the needs, let's say, of the
Well,
PD.
the inspectional services trailer is a bit more difficult because we have a server room in there. So the PD trailer, correct me if I'm wrong, would be an easier hookup than taking that, giving it to PD, pulling the server room out of there and relocating. So that's, and again, you gotta keep in mind, while that's being done, the town hall can't operate. There's no access to our systems, as far as I know.
But it still takes and overrides the fact that if you're gonna spend a lot of money and buy another trailer and put it back for a very short period of time, of which it would be able to be put there, you're looking at, did I hear 18 months at the most, before you start to get into that period of time where you're
Well-
not compliant anymore?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yep. And then, again, the question is, how do you,
We have 15.
we'd have to get rid of all the skirting, unhook the electric, unhook the server room, get the truck down there, get that back on its wheels, because right now it's up on blocks,
First time.
bring it out into High Road, back it back down and into these spots, reskirt it, rewire. I mean, it's,
Yep.
you know, you think it's a trailer, just hook the truck up and, you know, move it and park it, but we've grounded it pretty well.
Well, it starts to make sense to do the most logical thing for the least amount of money that would work until we decide what's gonna occur within the next year or so.
Right, and I think at this point, you know, the reason I have it as option 1 is, although it's slightly more expensive, I think, you know, I agree with the chief that relocating us to relocate them, I mean, it instead of upheaving, you know, Board of Health, Fire, and Police, Now we're throwing us into the mix too, conservation and building.
Yep.
And then to,
Server room.
you know, now we make a mess out of the meeting room as well, brings you guys into it, and the zoning board, the planning board, you know, all these other boards that use this room really is, you know, as much as it's less expensive, maybe easier to do from an IT standpoint, it creates a whole lot more dysfunction than parking some cars down either at the fire station or just having short parking.
Any more discussion?
When these trailers come out of the back, do you I've not dealt with trailers very much. Are they gonna most likely be demolished in place or rolled out and demolished off-site?
Most likely destroyed in place, yeah.
Okay. I mean, rolling them around town so people can see where you've been working.
At this point,
Since
you know,
PR,
they're,
we should do a parade
the
with them.
underside's all coming apart. To try and take them down the road probably isn't gonna work. The wheels probably aren't any good anymore after sitting out there, you know, unused for 15 years. They're probably dry rotted being under there.
Okay.
As far as dealing with the hill over here, again, you can't take them out this way. You'd have to go that way, and there's no drive around right now. Again, you could crane them out, but it's not cost effective when you can come in with a small, you know, piece of equipment and just claw at them.
Okay.
JR?
I got nothing to add. It's just very frustrating if the people at home can't see the need for facilities here. I'm highly frustrated that we're gonna throw more money at trailers instead of a real solution.
I agree, and you know, I want to say
Almost at a
thank
loss
you
for
to
words.
the selectmen for being as understanding. It's a rough position that I'm in. I don't take it lightly to post any town building, or, you know, or trailer, and I appreciate that you understand.
More than understand.
Thank you.
I think it's the folks that are working in the trailers and under those conditions that deserve the, you know, our condolences.
I think we're blessed with some really good employees,
Well,
I'll tell you.
I think they
Goodness.
I think they think that maybe there'll be a solution, Chuck. I have to think that they think that one, you know, one way or the other, it's gonna be the onus is on us to provide a solution. Alicia?
There has to be a solution. It's not acceptable. The police department to go to work in those conditions every single day is not acceptable. So we have to find a solution. That's
Chuck.
my feelings.
Flatten your back, you gotta look up. Here we go. Let's find a way to solve it. Tomorrow night, here we come.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, motion on the table.
Yeah. Any other discussion, one more time? All those in favor of
Aye.
the trailer going down? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you, Michael. While we're on a roll, we'll breeze right into the discussion of override results. Should we take them in order, Tracy, or
Sure.
do you want to talk about the school override too?
Well, if we want to go through the, in the order that they appear in the warrant and talk about what our options are for discussion at the meeting tomorrow night.
Yep, that might be good.
The first override proposal that's gonna be appearing for action at town meeting is the snow and ice article number 5. As we know, it failed at the ballot. So at this point in time, it would be my recommendation to the board that when that article came up, that you would possibly give consideration for no action on that at this point in time.
Are they in
Yeah.
here? They got articles.
I think it is the
I
least
printed them.
important
I left them.
of the overrides. You know, I think it really helps us get our financial books in order to actually budget properly. And I think it's a discussion worth having, but I think the municipal building is the most important discussion to have, and I don't know if we face fatigue by actually trying to explain too many things in one night, So of the ones to X out, this I think is the one to let go, but I think we need to discuss it. It doesn't make sense to continually under budget our snow and ice removal.
Now, Tracy, are you asking us for a motion tonight for no
No.
action?
No, you don't have to take any action this
Okay.
evening. It's just kind of a discussion so that this is the first opportunity that you've had to meet as a board to discuss how you feel about it. You don't have to make a motion of no action if you prefer to discuss it, but not make an appropriation or not be giving, asking town meeting for a vote. You can certainly, with the moderator's approval, you can certainly discuss it, and then defeat it. A motion of no action means there's no discussion at all.
Once again, so that we all understand, Tracy, when that override comes before us tomorrow, the selectmen could ask for a new vote or have no action.
You're talking about snow and ice,
That's
right?
what's before us, so that everyone knows.
Right, and actually, for anyone that's listening, just so people, because I think there was some confusion, just to clarify, all of these override proposals, it's a two-stepped process.
Right.
The first, we just happen to have our election first. Either one can come first, but you need an affirmative vote at the ballot, and then you also need action at town meeting. In some cases, for a debt authorization, you need a 2/3 vote, whereas others require just a simple majority vote. But you have to get 2 affirmative votes for it to be approved, deemed approved. So in this particular instance, where it was strictly a funding proposal, we don't have any levy capacity to increase our snow and ice budget at this point in time. The only way that we could increase it was for the voters to allow us to override the restraints of Proposition 2.5. They said no, so we don't have another funding alternative for our operating expense. So that's why if you move forward with an affirmative motion, you can discuss the board's concerns about underfunding, but then you can defeat that motion so that no funding is requested. If you make a motion of no action, there's no discussion on the article at all. You just pass over it. So it's up to you.
Anyone else, guys? JR?
In light of recent events, I'd almost vote to let this one lay. You know?
My only concern with doing that is that the questions were put on the ballot. So people voted on it. To pass over it, I think people need to hear why. Why we decided, I think we should motion it, discuss it, and then pass over it in light of the needs of the police. I think that we need to drill home the needs, the dire needs of our police department. That police department's horrific. That's just my 2 cents.
A no action vote certainly doesn't change in our minds that we feel that we are not funding appropriately the snow and ice budget. And I think people at town meeting hopefully know that this was an attempt to do that.
I mean, one of the things that I'm fearful of is that people don't understand that 4 of the last 5 years, we have been more than $100,000 under budget on snow and ice removal. To continually plan and try and run a budget when you know you don't have enough money for something is fiscally,
Irresponsible.
irresponsible. And I think people should know that they're asking their fiscal representatives to be irresponsible. And that's why I feel like the discussion is worth having.
I agree.
As the people who are charged with caring for that aspect of the town.
Marshall?
Hi, Marshall Jesperson, 169 Elm Street in Byfield, also a member of the FinCom. I think this is a matter that the FinCom can explain and get up there and do a good job on because of the fact that we under budget, but it is the one area we are allowed to under budget and overspend, and let the taxpayers know that they are going to spend this money anyway. It's going to come. And so what we're trying to do is be responsible in our budgeting with this so that we get the money we need for snow and ice removal. As you have heard and we've explained before, this is an average of the last 5 years, and we're still under budgeting at the last 5 years. And I think you can leave this one to FinCom as an explanation, and that will also let you know in the meeting that whatever we have to spend on snow and ice removal, the taxpayers are going to spend. So it may be easy to do that way. And leave it for the next time around.
And that would be for no action of ours, but if you still feel strongly about wanting to discuss it after the Finance Committee, we can do that too.
So
Yeah.
we need to make the affirmative motion, and then the moderator would call for discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to hear people get up and tell me why they don't want snow and ice removal funded properly. Go ahead, Steve, tell me why you don't want snow and ice funded properly.
Now, Steve, is this just your opinion, or is this the opinion of a multitude of others?
I can't speak for other people. I can speak for why I do not support the override for snow and ice. Number one, it's legal under Mass General Law to underfund, and most cities and towns do underfund for snow and ice removal, and then the money is found, and I believe it's free cash, but it could be some other account that cities and towns have. Second of all, even if we did an override for $100,000 or whatever the number was to support snow and ice removal, that's going to go into the general pot of money that the town would get. And there's no assurity that each year you're going to see a bump up of that amount of money for snow and ice removal. It could go into other accounts as needed, other higher priority items, which could involve some other capital expenditures. You can't direct money
I
to
gotta
an override each
disagree
year.
with you on that one, Steve,
Well,
because, when you see fuel, you see salt prices go up. I mean, this is crazy. It's, it's not just the amount of snow we have, it's the expenses on everything that are going viral on us. So, I mean, we need that extra money.
And I can appreciate that it's underfunded, and generally that's what most cities and towns do. But again, by having an override for $100,000, that's not $100,000 for snow and ice every year. That extra money can go into the bigger budget for the town. So it's not being line itemed forever.
That means if it's not used in that 1 year, it will go back to the general fund?
The requirement is, when you pass a general override, the money has to be used for that purpose.
Right.
That's what I
The
thought.
first year, there's a
Yeah.
requirement. So what Mr. Manager's saying is correct. You could then shift it to somewhere else. I can guarantee you, as long as I'm in this position and will be presenting the Board of Selectmen budgets, that money will remain in that line item. Because even at the $100,000 increase, we're still under where we should be.
Significantly, correct?
And even if it did
Yep.
stay there for 1 year and could go to other places, it would still be like and if it happened to be underfunded that year, the money would then go back to the general fund.
And furthermore, with the snow and ice budget, you can't decrease it. Once it's increased, if you choose as a community to decrease it, you're not allowed to deficit spend according to the Department of Revenue. So there is a little bit of a
Right.
factor built into
Right.
that.
Exactly. And again, I appreciate the intentions of this board and the administrator, what they intend to do, but in no way can you dictate what future boards will do, and that's part of the concern.
That's clear.
Thank you.
That's good, Steve, yeah.
I think it's a comment that needs an answer. the fungibility or the ability to move funds around does not remove us from the obligation to clear snow and ice. And in the long run and in the averages that we have seen, we are still underfunding and we still need to get money from other sources to do this. I believe it is a responsible budgeting move and responsible from what we did on the Finance Committee. And so the fact that we can spend and deficit spend doesn't mean that we should deficit spend or that we should go into a year knowing full well that what we're telling you is going to be the budget for snow and ice is really way off. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you much.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, the next one appearing on the town meeting warrant was the public safety facility design engineering. That one's a little more complicated because, again, requires the two-step process. So although the override proposal was defeated at the ballot, the issue, obviously, as you've heard tonight, still exists. We've got to come up with some, alternatives. We have, the Municipal Building Committee has committed to moving this forward. Again, they still feel it's the best proposal to address all of the issues for the longest period of time, for the least amount of money. So what they've asked, and this morning I think affirmed again, is that action be taken on this. This particular article would require a 2/3 approval vote of the voters present at the town meeting. If that authorization was received, then the Board of Selectmen would have another 90 days to call an additional ballot election to see, if there was any possibility of continuing to move it forward.
Well, once again, I think this is the most important discussion we're going to have this year. We're in desperate need of this new facility, and we are losing money. We're throwing good money after bad right now as we speak. And I think we need to make it clear and have that discussion with the town. And I think, while I've been able to talk to a lot of people and convince them this is a good idea, I can't reach out to everyone. And having the discussion, I think, is going to be really valuable.
Good.
I agree with Damon, and I think it sometimes gets forgotten that we had a joint selectmen's meeting with the planning board finance committee, and was there another one, John? Or was it the three of us? Was there some, finance committee,
Capital
planning
planning.
board,
Capital
capital planning? I knew there was another. And out of that meeting came the universal thinking that this would be the place to do it. And certainly, it solves a lot of needs that as we go forward, especially after tonight, the needs are very poignant. And I think it shouldn't be forgotten, and this is kind of an assumption on my own part, that this is how I believe. I think people are forgetting the fact, because I've had people say to me, why don't you go build a police station somewhere else? I don't think it's that easy to go build a police station somewhere else that's gonna have water and sewer and has the synergy of what the boards asked for, where police and town hall and fire were kept in one place. And it just so happens, as I've said before, that 2/3 of the property happens to be in the possession, in ownership of the fire department. So if you look at the location, you look at what it accomplishes, it is certainly an idea in my way of thinking that should go before the voters again.
Well, we, the Board of Selectmen, tasked the Municipal Building Committee to look through multiple sites, and they did so. They came back with this plan.
Yep.
We tasked that committee to come to us with a plan. They have. We need to move forward with that.
Any ideas?
I think what clouds the issue with the municipal building committee's recommendation, which I strongly believe in. I think they have done all that they can do to look at it. But I think what clouds the voters in the town approving it is what, and it could be perception, and I'm new, so please forgive me if I speak out of turn. But I think that the fire department's willingness, and they have a need, the fire department has a need to add on to the municipal building committee and make it a public safety building. I think that's what clouds the issue. And I think until that's transparent enough to everybody, what's gonna happen, how, then this is gonna be, we gotta start thinking about maybe doing it in 2 different steps. Follow the need, get the need, the most dire need is the police now. Is it in the best interest of the town? I don't think so. But the police department can't continue to work like that. They can't. And if it means we have to do it in phases, I mean, is it possible to ask the municipal building committee to look at it in phase 1 and phase 2? I don't know if they already have.
Well, I think it is possible, but it's extremely wasteful. And we're already wasting money on the fact that we have not raised taxes in the last 15 or 20 years. And we've been throwing good money after bad in the basement. And so to say, let's break it into 2 pieces and let's put a Band-Aid on this one and we'll put a Band-Aid here and we'll just do the police station right now, wastes money, whereas the plan that we have has a lot of synergy. It saves money by combining needs and uses of heat systems, elevators. So it can be done that way, but it doesn't save the town anything. It costs the town more. So to say, well, let's do the cheaper option now, you know, that's putting good tires on a car with no brakes. It just doesn't make any sense. So.
And I think the proximity to water and sewer for visioning for 50 years is a very important component of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a long-term plan.
I was very critical of the project coming in. I was a steps guy, but as I dug into the project and met with people, attended meetings, savings absolutely seem to come with combining these facilities. And it's a kill 3 birds with 1 stone. We maintain town hall without knocking it down. We keep some of our character, use some of what's still good that we can repair. And it's a good long-term plan. I was highly critical of it, and I was hard to convince, but that's the conclusion I ended up coming to.
It's good to hear.
And
Chuck, you?
I think JR, especially when we heard about the trailers now at the transfer station incurring more mold, you know, if town hall is fixed and downstairs is waterproofed and all the things they're gonna do, and, you know, it will be a decent place to store some of, get them out of another trailer. So, but I think we're, at least in, Chuck, did yep, you spoke.
I'm all for it. Yep.
So at town meeting, how's it gonna go? No, I don't mean that. I mean.
I know.
Are we talking about Article 6, right?
Yes.
How come there's no dollar figure attached to it?
The dollar figure is in the motion. When the motion is read, that will have the $990,000 number in it.
And before we move on, we talked this morning about having a selectmen's report about this issue in the opening board comments. Do we still want to do that? I think that's something that's.
We're gonna have an affirmative vote, right?
Affirmative motion, yeah.
Motion. And certainly, where you were on the municipal building committee, you were on there too, Chuck? The 2 of you should, you know, speak, you're for it and you're for it. I think both of you should get up and speak for it.
Okay, just wasn't sure when that.
And I mean, whichever, you can talk to Chuck, and both of you should get up, and I think our board obviously is for it.
Can we all speak? Can we all get up and say we're for this?
Yep, certainly, I mean, yeah. certainly can.
Well, we gotta get done before midnight, you know.
We can, no, we can speak as a board.
I think it's great if all the selectmen get up and talk in the affirmative about this, but there have been not plenty, but there have been a few people from the voting side of this, some of the voters that have come, and they've come to realize that this is the thing to do. I think you need people like that talking. You're gonna give the party line. So am I, because I'm on the committee, but people that aren't on the committee but have attended some of the meetings, like JR, has been convinced that this is the way to go. Those are the people the town's voters want to hear from.
Thanks, Dave.
Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Judge Armstrong, when we had a discussion before, we talked about perhaps giving the committee report on this article right immediately before the article rather than at the very beginning of the town meeting. Is that?
Xerox funds report.
Yes, and that would be an opportunity, yeah.
That would be the case. He's a pretty persuasive.
Yeah.
So, once again, Eric would present when?
Right before, when we got to Article 6,
Good.
he would address the moderator and
Yeah.
request to make his committee report then.
No.
Is it possible to speak to all the things that are wrong with the police department? Like the
does.
violations?
Yep.
But Eric's gonna probably go over all
Yeah.
those things.
It's not
Mr.
appropriate?
Manchin,
Eric is the chair of municipal
you're being very
building
helpful tonight.
This is Steve Mangin again, and again, just a comment that I think I would like to hear people addressing that are, for the facility. First of all, from everything I've heard, we need a new police station, maybe a new municipal complex, so conceptually, I'm not against that. The one kind of reservation I do have, or at least would like to have explained more fully, relates to the property that would be purchased. As I understand it, right now, nothing has been settled about the environmental liability and environmental cost associated with the purchase of that property and who would have to pay. That can become a very big-ticket item, and I would like to see the terms of the purchase and sale having addressed that ahead of time so we know that we're not buying a pig in a poke in terms of contaminated land. So too, when I look at the proposed purchase price, I know the town administrator has offered to show me some of the information, which is great. I think it's around $450,000 plus or minus. $440,000. And one reason I found myself scratching my head over that is I think about the recent sale of the town by the former school building just down the road, where that piece of property went for about $250,000, $260,000 to the developer. And to me, this seems to be a bit of a price discrepancy between what we sold something for, what we're willing to buy something for, particularly for a piece of land that may have environmental issues, and who's responsible. The fact that that hasn't been settled ahead of time makes me reluctant to go willy-nilly. In that sense, I think a project like this needs to be done, but maybe there's some loose ends that need to be tied up, say, in the next 6 months to bring it back and do it, because I think that's just an outstanding loose end as I see it, particularly for my prior career working on the environment and hazardous waste cleanups. So, thank you.
I will say this, and I think Tracy wants to speak to some of that, but I would think that you could have 21E exposure anywhere you go. And we're led to believe that there could be 21E issues from there, which is just as historically correct or incorrect as the gossip on the next corner. So, and I think probably maybe some of the responsible thing to do, if that should get voted, is to maybe put some of that money into ground truthing, the geothermal, and some of the 21E possibilities even before you really tried to go into design. But Tracy?
Yeah, when we had our preliminary discussions with Protection 2, I want to say about 2 years ago, it might have even been longer, they engaged with someone, and I don't know who, for the phase 1 of the 21E testing, and there was nothing there to indicate that we should have any significant concerns. That being said, as part of the purchase and sale agreement, the company wanted us to take on the liability naturally. But with, I understand with the phase one in hand, and you probably know more about this than I do, that we're able to purchase an insurance, policy that would protect the town from that. We're engaged with some conversations, I think Ransom Environmental is the company, to talk about getting that insurance policy. So that's, we're addressing those issues, but I don't have a definitive answer right now. And relative to the 440,000, just so everyone understands, that is actually the exact amount of outstanding debt service they have on their properties and their apparatus. So we're not only buying the building, we're buying the lots and also all of the fire equipment. So it's not just, you know, a shell of a building like we had over here.
Sure.
So that's.
And I appreciate that, and I'll say my experience was at the federal level with cleanups, not Massachusetts 21E, but I would also remind the board or recollect that back in the day when Fish and Wildlife was buying property where their current headquarters is, they had an assessment done there as well, and basically got a clean bill of health, but then they ended up spending, I think it was around $1.4 million to do the cleanup of the site after that. And that's a much larger property, different issues. There's not a one-for-one correspondence, but things can bloom out of sight depending on what kind of assessment is done and reading between the lines. And certainly I'd be happy to look at that when the time comes. I think there are other people in the town that could do that as well. But that's my underlying concern.
And as far as the 220 is concerned, those were sealed bids. They were not asking prices, so there was no, we had no control over that. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Last one?
Okay.
Okay, I'll second to last. The 125,000 for the road improvement program, that was affirmatively voted at the ballot. So what this is we have the funding source, which was approved at the ballot. Now we have to get the appropriation, the okay from town meeting to spend the funds. So that's the vote that will be taken on that one. And then the only other item was the Triton Stadium project. That obviously failed the ballot. But with Triton, it's a little bit different. Again, a little bit confusing because each one of these is so different from the others. Triton Regional School District has its own separately elected school committee. The school committee is the authority that would be authorizing the debt service. They have not taken their vote yet. On the date that they do take their vote, the town of Newbury and the other communities would all have 60 days to call a special town meeting to take action, either voting it up or voting it down. Rowley and Salisbury, I understand, have already approved it, from what I read in the newspaper. So they'd just be waiting for a response from Newbury. What failed at the ballot was the funding, was the vote to allow us to override 2.5 and get the additional money. So that's what failed. School committee will authorize the debt service. We'll have 60 days to call a special town meeting. If the board decides not to call a special town meeting for that purpose,
It's automatic.
it's an automatic approval. They need 3 out of the 3 towns to approve the debt service and move forward. So if you decided, okay, we're going to fund this within our operating budget, and again, the debt won't be due the first year, it'll probably be due the second year, the first debt service payment, so we're looking at 2017. You don't have to call a town meeting, and you can just let the approval move forward, and we'd fund it through our operating assessment.
Wow.
But I didn't think Salisbury passed it. I thought they were gonna do the same thing in the fall.
I may be wrong.
No, they haven't, no.
Okay, I'm sorry, Rowley passed it.
Yeah. But that's just the funding.
Correct.
So,
Now, is that gonna be,
Out of their
Right.
operating budget. Okay.
is that gonna be before us at this town meeting or a fall town
No,
meeting?
fall, because the
So
committee
it's
hasn't
not-
voted
right,
it yet.
it's not this
No,
meeting.
it won't
so
be in this meeting.
So the only other one would be the fire pumper that will be discussed.
I'm sorry, the fire pumper, yes, again, the approval failed at the ballot.
Yep.
So we had an opportunity to pay it all off and save about $60,000 in interest. Since that failed, we still have to make our annual lease payment. So rather than making the motion to pay the full $420,000 balance, one of the members of the Board of Selectmen will make a motion to appropriate from free cash 52,000 some odd dollars to pay our annual lease payment for fiscal year 2016.
Now, I would rather, since we are looking at potentially passing, hopefully, the ballot measure for the municipal building committee, which would then require reballoting, I would like to reballot this question, because I can't conceive of our town members not wanting to save $60,000.
But why? Why do you think?
Why?
I'm with you. And
Because
the
I
reason
think once-
is, I don't think they thought it, they might have misconstrued it as being a general override and not a
Yes.
one and done.
That's my fear, is that we did not communicate clearly enough that it was a one-time override for a one-time expense, and that it would save the town a significant amount of money. So I feel like we need to, actually, my inclination would be to have this be one of the first overrides that we address. I don't know if that's possible, because it's so clearly beneficial to the town to save this money, and to have them actually approve something at town hall meeting would be very nice.
Marshall Jesperson again. I think FinCom could do a really good explanation of the fact that this is a one-time, only for 1 year we're asking for this money, and that it saves from our operating funds $60,000 in a town that is so strapped for cash that when you hold up a nickel, the buffalo squeals. It is just, it makes so much sense to save this money for other needs of the town that I think it would be unconscionable not to vote it through. And again, it does not continue on. This is the big thing that
Yeah.
people have to know.
I think there was.
One time,
Yeah.
one and done.
And believe it or not, I think there were some people that didn't realize that basically we've already purchased it.
Correct.
Yes.
We're committed to it.
So, I mean.
Yeah, we're already committed to this.
We
We're gonna
have
pay
the
the money.
truck.
Something that seems so clear, I'm not sure that it was that
It
clear.
wasn't that clear, no. Thank you.
Mr. Manchin,
Well, a couple things. I don't know if I have my figure right, but I believe the $60,000 in projected interest cost savings was over some number of years,
9 years.
over 9 years. So, 60 divided by 9, you can do a little bit of math there. But the other thing is, I think people did understand that it was a one-time cost, but I'd also like to remind the board that last year, was it last year or the year before, when the decision was made to buy the truck, it was being sold as a long-term process. It wasn't going to cost a lot of money all at once. It was under those terms that the town decided to purchase the vehicle. So in some sense, we're shifting colors or shifting the debate. And I think people were very comfortable with the long-term cost of paying off the truck, but they did not want to pay it all at once. And to my way of thinking, $60,000 over 9 years isn't that huge amount of money compared to the other needs of the town. I think when you look at the impact on the on landowners, taxpayers, that it is significant to have even that one-term, one-year bump up in costs. So that's why I would not support buying it all at one time, but particularly because last year it was sold as something we're going to pay for over time and not immediately. Thank you.
Point well taken.
Steve, you make a lot of sense, I hate to say it. But you only make that sense in the respect that I can't agree that 60 grand's not a lot to save. But the fact that we did have a first-time presentation in the respect that it would be financed over long-term when it makes sense. And it behooves us to think about things and maybe allow, well, then there's gonna be confusion as we find out too. I was gonna say maybe to allow there to be two ways but there's gonna be confusion and you wouldn't get the process.
There's a bigger issue here, and I'm hoping that the board might consider correcting it next year. if we were to have our town meeting before we go to the ballot, the finance committee could explain a lot of these issues, the board members could have the conversations, at least with a larger group at town meeting.
What would the steps be to make that happen? Because I've been putting a lot of thought
All
into
I
this.
need is for you guys to vote to make it the last Tuesday in April. No, the bylaw allows us a period of
Well,
time. Yeah.
wasn't it reversed at one time and then?
It used to be like, it used to be
Yes,
like
it
that.
was. Yes, it
used to be,
was.
yeah.
It was in
Was.
'04.
I'd love to know why they
We
switched it
intentionally
back.
changed it, but nobody can explain why. Nobody here now knows why, so
There were
I
a whole
would-
bunch of overrides on and school money that was on. And if we voted it before and the override failed, we'd have to call a
He's right.
special
That's right, I remember that,
meeting afterwards to approve it.
right.
And
It was to save the
that's why
cost of
we
the
moved
special
it.
election,
Say that
right?
again, Chuck?
Okay.
The
We had
override
overrides
no,
on.
no, town
Okay.
meeting coming before the ballot.
That is correct.
What,
And if the ballot fails, now you have to have a special town meeting to reappropriate the money.
Oh, no, you couldn't, the way you resolve that is it's contingent upon the passage of an
Right.
override question, so.
Yes.
It's so, the money appears in the operating budget, and then it appears as a special article contingent upon the passage, so you don't have to come back.
But
We
that's-
can word it that way.
But that's why that's why it was
Yes.
changed, was because they,
And
to
I
avoid a
have
special
no
election.
problem putting it back. I have
I think
no
some
problem
people
with that at
have
all.
resentment to the fact that they turn out to vote and then they feel like their vote doesn't count. Even though it does, it just kind of feels like it doesn't have the impact.
Yeah,
Right.
it always requires the two.
but it's funny too,
Right.
because if
But-
you voted and then town meeting didn't vote to appropriate their money, it wouldn't get done either.
Correct.
Right.
Mr. Manchin, do you have something else to say?
Really just a question for clarification in terms of which of these 5 items require a 2/3 vote and which requires a simple majority. I know that'll be clear at town meeting, but I'd love to hear it right now. Like, does the truck require a 2/3 or a 50% vote?
The,
I believe the truck.
the truck is a 50% vote. The public safety facility is 2/3. The snow and ice would have been a majority. The roads program is a majority.
Yep.
Okay.
Triton
Was the 2/3 because it was
the
debt
2/3 'cause it's the
exclusion.
issuance of debt.
Subject to revision in case we find differently.
And I
Yeah.
certainly appreciate that. But I'm sure the judge will want to know for sure. Thank you.
We'll know at
Actually,
that time.
Make a revision. The fire truck is 2/3 because that was a debt authorization.
See, you didn't even get to your chair.
Sorry, it was a debt authorization when we originally made the purchase. And the language in the vote of the override, when I was talking with town council about that, when we had our meeting with Judge Armstrong, she advised that that was a 2/3 vote.
But it's a one-time override.
Understood,
Huh.
understood.
Even though, so because it's paying off debt, that it's
Because
2/3?
paying off debt.
Yep.
So can I take, oh, go ahead, Tracy.
Makes sense to me, but-
Can I take and ask the board or challenge the board to get a feel for what the people in the community would like as opposed to what we're thinking might be a good idea? And maybe
Fine.
we should make a vote at our next town meeting about
Changing them
town
around?
meeting. Instead of trying to do it tonight, why don't you get a chance to think about it, unless you want to make a motion tonight?
It doesn't hurt to think about it.
All right, so we're gonna think about it. We'll wait till our next meeting,
I have
and
a question, I don't wanna
if
close
the
this
time's
meeting.
right, if the time's right, we'll make a motion.
Now, before we wrap up, so are we going to be discussing the Triton project at this meeting at all? So,
Unless they make a board or committee report at the beginning if they choose to ask the moderator.
Who's that?
and that means that when the school committee votes, that will, if we do not ballot to go into debt, it will come out of our operating expenses.
But remember, their debt is like ours, their debt is declining also. And they hope to offset it with field rental receipts.
I'm just concerned about our already tight budget.
Not in 16,
Yeah,
in 17.
so,
Were you wrapping up here?
I have one question.
Because I have another meeting at 7 in South Byfield, so I don't know what's...
I just have one question. This article number 15, how did that get on here? I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $200,000 from free cash to complete the construction of the field house project at Mantor Field.
That was the wisdom of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Well, the boards and committees or department managers will submit to me during the budget process any requests. And then it moves forward through the committee review, finance committee, capital planning committee, board of selectmen.
And part of
So-
that, to answer your question as to when it came before us, why did it maybe go that way, is that that field as it is, especially if Triton gets a new field, is in somewhat competition with each other. And that field right now gets a lot of use, and it could continue to get a lot of use, but it's kind of deficient right now in the respects that if there was a thunderstorm, kids can't get in someplace to get out of the weather. And they don't have any facilities, on site. So I think that night, and you guys can hammer me if I'm making a statement that is too general, meaning my board, correct me. We kind of decided that it might be the will of the people.
So here's my question. There's $200,000 in free cash. How much do we have in free cash now?
A little over $1 million.
So would this be a capital improvement?
Yep, that's why I went before the capital planning committee, and they voted it down.
See, this kind of rubs me wrong, because, and I'm new, and I don't understand where the thought process went in, that's why I'm asking you. The police department in the municipal building is in such dire need, and the town is in such dire need. I think that, yes, it's important that this gets done, but not right now. I think that the police department,
Before Marshall.
I just need to understand how the thought process came into this.
But Alicia, before you answer that, I would like to say this. We went through the process at the table, just like, for instance, when Chuck said, why don't we put a certain amount of money on to fix the roads? I couldn't think that was a good idea, but look how good an idea it was. So it went before the voters, and that's the only thing that we felt. We have a significant asset, and the asset right now, we've worked forward to put, in fact, Marshall worked hard on the building physically himself, and to complete that building at some time before it goes into disrepair, I think would be a significant accomplishment. But, Marshall?
Okay, good question. And when we looked at it at the Capital Planning Committee, we rated this as the lowest of the projects that we had before us. We have to rate them all. And so we rated this one all the way down, and we did not recommend it for approval at this time. Now, since then, I've talked with Mr. Mantor. A couple of us have said, we will try and put some more material and some time and see if we can bring this along and get some more work done on it before it comes back to the town. We think it's an asset. What really has happened in the town, and we see it from the town barn, some of the mowings, some of the other things that have happened, is volunteers have kept this town afloat.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the Byfield Fire Department, that was a voluntary tax on people in Byfield who put that together. Okay?
In this
It's
building, too.
volunteers who have kept a lot of things going in this town. And so we still have a little more work to do on that one.
I think it might send the wrong message at town meeting, that we are saying how desperate the police and the fire department are. And then here we are transferring $200,000 for, albeit good, but
We're not recommending that transfer. It's up to the voters. So we have to put it on the ballot. You know, it came up, and if somebody says, we need to put this on, we put it on, and the board put it on. But when it went through FinCom, when it went through capital planning, we did not recommend that this be done.
Okay.
We did recommend and strongly stand behind the municipal building project.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you much.
Thanks, Buzz.
It's actually a question back
Actually,
here for
sit closer.
clarifications. I think you said this was the lowest ranked proposal when you were doing your review.
Throw me off.
That's correct.
What is the status of the other projects that ranked higher? Are they receiving full funding, and now there's money to do this one as well, or are they still left as unfunded requests, since they had a higher priority?
Okay, why don't we just share the mic, Steve? What we did is we went through, and many of them, if not most of them, are being funded. A lot of them are small, and they are included in the warrant. So you'll see that the CPC and FinCom recommended, and those are in there, and many of them are being funded. And we'll speak to those tomorrow night.
But not necessarily all of them. Again, I'm just concerned that there was,
Well-
numbers 3 and 4 on the list didn't get funded.
No, I
at
mean,
this
some of them,
time.
if you go through there are things like the Council on Aging van, police cars, some other things that are normal purchases that came right up to the top that we are funding.
Thank you.
Marshall or Tracy, when that 200 grand came to us for a vote, was that an up to number? So, once again, it's like everything else, it might take 80 grand to put in the bathrooms and fix the place. I doubt it, or it might take 120.
But we
But-
have so much more need over here. I just think we need to prioritize, and this,
We have prioritized. This is at the bottom, but just because we can't fund the municipal building committee on free cash. So that, to me, we shouldn't stop everything else we're trying to do in town just because it's a low priority. If we can move this one forward as well, great. If we don't move this one forward right now, that's all right too. This is the bottom of the barrel. A lot of people would use it. It would benefit the town, but it's not like this impedes our ability to do the municipal building committee work, to fund the public safety complex. It's so far beyond the money we've allocated to this that it and again, it comes back to the voters. If people show up at town meeting and say, this is really important to us, we want this, please do it, we can only hope that they also say the police department is important.
And I think, Alicia, I think it's not easy right now. That night when we thought about it, we just felt that for people that use the field, and they're significant in number, if the field was gonna continue into the next, decades and decades, that it did need to achieve some sort of finished component, whether they're able to sell hot dogs out of it or not, who knows? But it is, at this point now, gone to the will of the voters, and I don't think it lessens our credibility to put that before the voters. Because we certainly can have opinions of the best way to do things at some time, and also want the voters to have their say in it. Because otherwise, we'd have a municipal building right now. What else? Anything, guys? Any old business?
what about the, we didn't talk about the problem with the police department and that mold thing. Are they gonna get rid of that air conditioner?
Downstairs, as I understand it, and Sam's not here, but Tracy's probably been in the mix enough, for the time being, there could be, or would be, or seems to be enough corrections that can be made.
Okay,
until
so
it-
they're gonna get
till
rid
it-
of the air conditioner or clean it, do whatever they're gonna do in the duct work?
So we're gonna spend a little more money downstairs to make it.
We have to.
Till the next storm comes.
And the Department of Public Health will be here tomorrow to look at it and to provide us with some additional options for.
And hopefully that doesn't change the ante immensely.
Hopefully it doesn't what?
Change the ante, make it more expensive.
Well, yeah.
So that being said, any more business? Correspondence? Did I get correspondence in there?
No correspondence
I didn't think so. Warrants,
No warrants
meeting updates?
tonight.
Any executive session? Any? I think we
Mr.
can-
Chairman, motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion, all those in